I'm not ready for this. I have a theory of why Robin Hobb made that writing decision. You definitely have to read the other two trilogies before you read this to get the full impact. Hello and welcome to the BookTube channel, Jack in the Book Stack, where I talk about a wide variety of book genres and the bookish lifestyle. Today we're talking about fantasy books because I am going to be reading and reacting to the Tawny Man Trilogy by Robin Hobb. Now this is part of the larger Realm of the Elderlings series, which consists of 16 individual books, but it is broken into 5 sub-series, and I am on the 3rd sub-series called The Tawny Man. I will be reading and reacting to all 3 books in this sub-trilogy in this reading vlog, and if you like this kind of thing where I read an entire trilogy in one video, then check out the playlist that I will link down below for you where I attempt to do just that with other book series. And there is one video in particular where I read the Farseer trilogy, which is the first trilogy in this Realm of the Elderlings universe, and I mean, spoiler alert, but I loved it. This is a 5-star trilogy for me. I was so moved. I was so attached to this main character, Fitz Chivalry. And we follow him from when he's 6 years old up until he's 20, and I just really, really loved it. So please check out that video if you want my spoiler-free reactions to that trilogy. In this introduction, I am actually coming to you when I have already finished the trilogy because I wanted to tell you what to expect from it so that you can decide if this is a trilogy for you. So you can expect it to be very character-driven, very character-forward, and also with that, very slice-of-life type plot. There's lots of other things that go on, but you are going to spend a good portion of these pages in slice of life. I really enjoyed that because you get to know this main character so well that I find it very engaging and fascinating. But on top of that, you also have very interesting magic. I don't feel it's overly complex, but there are different magics that pop up, and learning about them and how they're used is very fascinating, and the different societal expectations or understandings of these magic adds like a little bit of political intrigue to it, or like society intrigue. We have a lot of exploring different relationships and friendships that, you know, hey, not everyone's all good or all bad, and definitely get to explore that. And the theme of this trilogy, I would say, it really seems to me the difference between freedom of choice versus duty and responsibility versus fate. And I mean, okay, this book is called Fool's Fate, so I guess maybe I'm not that creative for coming up with that on my own. But those are some of the things that you can expect in the Tawny Man trilogy. In this reading vlog, I am going to be reacting to the trilogy, so I'm not going to be focusing so much on recapping the plot for you for a couple reasons. Firstly, as I mentioned, this is the 3rd trilogy in the overall series, so this is books 7, 8, 9, so there's too much plot that would really make sense. So this will be spoiler-free. I'm just talking about reactions, but hopefully that appeals to both people that have read the trilogy and have not read it, because it's pretty generic. And the other thing is, I've noticed in other BookTube videos, I tend to like check out a little bit or fast forward if the booktuber goes too much into the plot, because I prefer to go into my books a little bit more blind. I care more about how the book made you feel or how you're reacting to it. So that is going to be the focus of this reading vlog. I would love to hear feedback from you in the comments down below, because reading vlogs are my favorite types of videos to make. And so I'm curious what your preference is in these types of videos. But while you're doing that, we are going to go ahead and get started as I start the Tawny Man Trilogy by Robin Hobb. I have just reached chapter 9. I'm about 150 pages into the book, or about a quarter of the way into the book. And initial impressions are that this book is making me feel super old. We start out chapter 1 with the update that Fitz is now 35 years old, which is younger than I am. And yet, he is talking a lot about how slow he is, how many aches and pains he has, how he's not able to do the same things that he did as a 20-year-old. But I mean, like, drastically different. And I'm like, oh man, it's like highlighting all of my aches and pains, but also making me feel maybe I'm doing pretty good for my age if I'm not this miserable. Fitz has been isolated for the past 15 years. He's been raising Hap alongside Night Eyes, who, let's be honest, is like the star character of this book. We love a canine companion, especially when they can communicate telepathically. Pretty awesome. The plot is very slow moving, and I don't know if I mind it that much. I think readers that tried the original Farseer trilogy, the first 3 books in Realm of the Elderlings, and didn't enjoy it because it was slow paced, it's going to be the same in this book so far. Those are my initial impressions. It's written in the first person, so we have Fitz's point of view, and he is referring to himself. It's I think this, I did that, I said this. So I know that's commentary I've heard about the first trilogy that people either loved or hated, so it continues in this one. I really like it. I think maybe because I had the right expectations of this being like a character-driven story when we're with Fitz, I'm really enjoying just kind of sinking into his world and seeing how his isolation is going, how he spends his days, how he is a little bit restless and feels like maybe he should be doing something, but he doesn't exactly know what. Kind of wonder if it's a little midlife crisis here. But he has some visitors, some prior characters from the first trilogy, even some references to the Live Ship Traders trilogy, which comes before this but follows different characters. So I enjoy that. However, I'm having troubles remembering who everybody is. Live Ship, I've got down pretty well. If we talk about character names or Bingtown or the politics going on there, I'm familiar. But referring back to characters from the first 3 books, the Farseer trilogy, I don't remember who a lot of these people are. I remember Chade. I remember who is in charge. I don't want to spoil that if you haven't seen it or if you haven't read it. I remember who is the royalty now. I know some of the names of who the previous royalty. So I know that stuff, but Starling, it took me a little while to remember. Kettle, I don't remember who that is. There was another name, Sherrod or something like that. I don't remember who that is. So some of these things, the characters I'm having a hard time remembering. The events I'm remembering pretty well. So we refer back to that, and there's a little bit of summarizing what happened there, and that's really helping me, I think, with the events. But I think that's also why I like that this is a little bit slower. It gives me time to get refamiliarized with these characters, their traumas, who has impacted him in the past, and just kind of refamiliarizing myself with his world. So the slow pace doesn't bother me. Really, really like that. I'm really engaged in the story. I can see where this is going. I read the summary on the back, and none of this stuff has happened yet. None of this errand that the Fool is going to send him on. In fact, the place I'm at right now, the Fool just came to visit him after 15 years apart. So they are reconnecting, and that's so charming and so fun. Because the Fool is such a vibrant character that I really, really enjoy reading, and he's so unpredictable. Really enjoy that. So they're just kind of in this reconnecting phase, but I know the errand referred to in the title has to be coming up here soon because I'm a quarter of the way in. So I'm going to keep reading and see if I can find out what this errand is going to be.
Alright, I am gonna need a few days to digest this before I can wrap this up because I cannot even talk about this without sobbing. So, I need a minute.
I have composed myself, pulled myself together, so now I can finally talk about Fool's Errand without crying. And you know what? I'm not really worried about breaking down because I'm not talking about the plot, I'm not talking about spoilers, and I think talking about the specifics, that's what gets me. In fact, I was just talking to my mom about this last night and I started tearing up and choking up again. So I'm not worried about it for this reaction part because I'm keeping it spoiler free and high level. I will say that the emotional part, I kind of knew it was coming, but it didn't make it any easier when it happened. But it wasn't like a traumatic moment. And I know Robing Hobb can write trauma because Life Shift Traders was disturbing. It was a lot of trauma. That's what that whole trilogy is about, essentially, is trauma and traumatic events. And this, what got me is just how beautiful it was, how much I felt and how much I related to what was going on. I was crying and I was upset because it was so beautiful, not because it was like a traumatic event that was there for shock value or something. And that, I think, is so magical that Robing Hobb can connect to me that deeply and could also make me connect to her characters. Like, I just really, really love that. I rated this 5 stars because of that connection. And I will say, if you're a plot-driven reader, if you're going into this expecting plot, you may not rate it 5 stars like I did, because 200 pages into this book, so in total it's 584 pages. 200 pages into it, we have not gone on the errand that's referenced in the title, and nothing talked about in the summary on the back had started. 200 pages in. Like, we're just hanging out with Fitz, and he's talking about how old he is, and how he's worried about Night Eyes, who's also, you know, an older wolf now, and has, like, arthritis in his hips and his legs, and so they both have their aches and pains, and we're kind of just talking about that for 200 pages. And I found myself getting frustrated with Fitz at times where I'm like, can you just suck it up? Like, not just the pain, but all of the drama that he has going on in his brain, how he's overthinking things. Can you just suck it up, bro? But here's the thing, like, even though I don't agree with him all the time, and I get frustrated sometimes with his train of thought, I still just really, really love hanging out with him. I love the first person narration, and this book, it's making me feel a lot like the first trilogy, the Farseer trilogy, where I just sink into it. And I feel like I'm sinking into someone else's life, for better or for worse. I'm feeling all those things. And it's just really nice. So it is slower paced with the plot, but then it does pick up. We have this errand, which is really a quest, kind of a trope that you often see in fantasy. And I like a quest trope. I really, really like it. So I enjoyed that element. I enjoyed just being with these characters again. We have a prince that is a new character for this trilogy, and he's 14, and I kind of got annoyed with him in some elements, but that was quick. It was a quick annoyance where I actually really like him now, and I think at the end of this, going into book 2, I'm most excited to see how the prince's relationship with Fitz goes. How it changes, how it evolves, like if they're gonna get along. My Disney heart really wants them to get along and be buddies and learn from each other and all this stuff. And it kills me all the secrets that are going on with this. Like, I never like secrets. I'm the one that, like, if I buy you a gift, I want to tell you. I don't want to wait for your birthday or Christmas. I want to be like, hey, guess what I got you? Like, I'm so bad at keeping secrets. And so seeing all the secrets that have to go on here, like secret identities, keeping things from each other, telling people different selective truths, and it gets all like a cobweb of lies. Oh man, I just want the truth to come out. But I was talking about like the plot and the relationship between them. So this new character, the prince, I'm really excited to see how this evolves, and I'm excited to see him grow up a little bit. 14, I mean, he's acting 14 and that's fine, but I'm excited to hang out with him and see his journey as well. So this is going really good. I am looking forward to getting into book 2. I feel emotionally prepared. Again, because it's not trauma. It was just beautiful. I'm just really moved. I'm just really, really moved. And it also like was really personal to me. It hit on some feelings that, you know, I've had, that I went through, particularly last year in 2023, and it brought me kind of comfort. Robin Hobb just put my experience into words and really moved me. It meant a lot. It meant a lot. And I've reread the section that upset me 3 or 4 times now, because it was just so well done and so heart-achingly beautiful. Yeah, this reading vlog is off to a great start. Have a live Ship Traders tie-in. So I just read essentially a recap of the sea serpent situation that was in the live Ship Traders, and I swear in these couple pages that the whole history and situation is summarized brings me so much more clarity than that entire trilogy. I really needed this reminder because I think it was all actually a reminder rather than revealing new information about the sea serpents. Because it all sounds familiar, but it was very succinct, and I just really, really liked this summary. I needed this, and this was a perfect way that Robin Hobb just brought the stories together.
Fitz is really getting on my last nerve right now because he is completely wallowing in self-pity and kind of just being a little bit of a crybaby. So I am starting dinner. I am making one of my favorite recipes, Cajun shrimp and rice. Got that covered in my seasoning. Rice, I'm working on it. It's gonna be a yummy dinner. I need some space right now from Mr. Fitz.
I am just settling in to read for the evening, and I have 200 pages left in The Golden Fool. I'm hoping I can finish this tonight. And 200 pages sounds like a lot, but last night when I was reading, I did not want to put it down. I was so intrigued with what was going to happen next. So it is possible that I could finish this tonight. And if I do, what's really, really cool, this will be my 100th read for 2024. And that's crazy because it's only the middle of June right now. So that is an insane pace of reading. I don't really care about number of books. That's not something I judge success by. It's just kind of interesting. And it would be cool if number 100 was something by Robin Hobb. So I'm hoping I can finish this. Well, I didn't finish Golden Fool last night like I had hoped, but I did finish it this morning. I have the day off, so I was able to just relax and read the last 50 pages. But that was quite the accomplishment, and I need to tell you why. So this morning I woke up and I decided to do some yard work, like be productive on this day off. And so I was outside trimming this little mini palm tree that I have. And I am so silly. I leaned forward and I caught a palm leaf straight into my eyeball. And I don't think it broke off. I don't think there's anything left in my eye, but it is super red, like blood red, and you can't really tell because I have the glasses on. They're a little reflective and I'm sitting kind of far back, but it is really red and it's super, super sore. So I really just want to close my eyes, but I'll probably do that after this video. If I'm squinting, that's why, because it kind of like hurts to blink a little, not like hurt, not like sharp pain, it's sore. And so I don't want to blink. I just want to go lay down, honestly. So I'll do that after this. But reading physically the last 50 pages was a challenge. Really wish I had the audiobook for this. Let's start with the positive of this book. So I really like hanging out with Fitz. The writing style of the first person narration really works for me. I feel super connected to him. I don't mind the slice of life stuff with Fitz, which is a lot of what this book is about. I also like the direction some of the relationships are going. I mentioned I really like this prince character, and I continue to really, really enjoy him. Some other characters that I remember from the first book, I love having them back. I love being back with a lot of these characters. Ketcherkin, wow, she is such a fantastic leader. I like her negotiations. I like her political maneuvering. She is just so inspiring. So I really love her. Chade, as always, is a complex character that I sometimes find frustrating because it's always like you put duty first over yourself or love of others, and he can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. I found myself arguing with him a little bit in this book. But overall, the characters, I keep saying that with these books, the characters are really what makes this great, the whole series. Now, moving on to some of my critiques and some of my frustrations. So from page 1 to the end, page 632, we're in the same exact position. I don't feel there was a whole lot of plot progression, and there was not character development. So starting with the character development, Fitz was whiny the whole time, just wallowing in self-pity, very frustrating. Like, I need him to just get enlightened and grow up a little bit. And there were some moments where maybe he did, but generally he's just feeling sorry for himself. And that's just kind of not admirable. I don't really care and want to read about that. Adding to my frustrations, there were several times that he had some revelation, but then just completely let it go. Like, there was one part where he was struck by recognition of some person. He didn't know where he knew them from, but he really recognized as having seen them before. And then he's like, oh, that's weird, and he moves on, and it doesn't come up again. And then there's a situation where he's like reading the scrolls, and he's like, oh, the image of this doesn't match the labels as I have thought my whole life that it matches. That's weird. Okay, I'm just not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna go with what I've always known. And I'm like, are we just not gonna talk about that again? Okay, I guess we'll talk about these things in book 3. Now for the plot. When I say there was no plot progression, I don't mean to say that nothing happens in this book. It is slow paced, but things are definitely happening, and I can see how they will be important in book 3. But after I started the book, I read the summary on the back, and it describes a quest, that Fitz has to go on a quest. And that quest was not even mentioned until after 300 pages. So we're like halfway into the book before it even comes up. And then at the end of the book, they haven't left for the quest yet. And so this was really misrepresented. The whole plot on the back, it just didn't really happen. And so that was so frustrating. This is very much middle book syndrome, because I feel like it just exists to link books 1 and 2. So I'm like, is it really serving any purpose? I already feel connected to Fitz. You don't have to convince me. I'm here. I'm invested. This is what, book 7 in the overall 6, 7, 8. I think this is 8 in the realm of the Elderlings. Like, I'm already invested. I'm here for the long haul. You don't have to keep pitching this to me. So that really frustrated me, that there just wasn't a lot of progression. But again, I don't mind hanging out with Fitz. I don't mind this day-to-day stuff. He does make a lot of silly, stupid decisions that make me really frustrated with him. He keeps getting himself into trouble. Gosh, especially with women. But, you know, I'm in it. I mentioned that there were a lot of secrets going on in this book, and that made me really restless and really excited for big reveals. And so I'm pretty angry with Robing Hobb right now, because a reveal that I was really excited for was done, but the reader wasn't a part of it. And so I feel kind of like a deflated balloon, because I said there's lots of secrets going on, lots of things that maybe we know that aren't shared with others, or other situations where you can tell there's a secret there, but we, the reader, are left out of it. There's just so many different secrets going on, so there's so many I'm excited for. But this one reveal I was super looking forward to, and it happened off page. And that was so frustrating, because we get the reaction from it, like the consequences, the fallout, or the relief, or whatever, you know, however it was received. we get that, but like I wanted to be there for the reveal, and I was very upset that I wasn't a part of that. So a lot of critiques on this one, but I rate it like 3 stars because I like it, but I just obviously I take issue with it. So very, very middle book syndrome. So I'm hoping going into book 3, I hope it ties things together really nicely. I hope I feel a sense of closure for this trilogy. I always worry about that with these like sub trilogies within a larger group of books because I don't want it to end on too much of a cliffhanger. I want to feel satisfied and wrapped up at the end of the next book. And the next one is a long one. I think it's over 800 pages, 700 or 800, because what I did is I scheduled out for when I want this reading vlog to go up and how many pages I need to read a day so that I have time to film it, and I have to read like 100 pages a day, which honestly has been really easy so far, like with the other 2 books, because once I get started, I can't put it down. It's just calming and comforting, if that makes sense. It's not, those are tough words to just use to describe it because it's not a cozy fantasy. Some like emotional stuff happens, but I just find myself really absorbed in this world. And so reading 100 pages a day should be relatively easy. But honestly, with the way that I'm feeling right now with my eye, I don't know how that's going to go. I really wish I had the audiobooks for this. Like it's killing me because that would be perfect. I could like lay down, rest my eyeball, but okay, enough complaining about that. I sound like Fitz wallowing in my self-pity and victimhood. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna be a Fitz in the Golden Fool. Hopefully he gets it together in the next one. I think he will, because this stuff has to happen at some point. It has to happen in the next book. So I will get to book 3 when I get to it, but I'm very much looking forward to it. This was a little bit of a tease. I'm trying to keep my injured eye in the shadows here so I don't gross you out. Took a little bit of a nap to rest my eyes, but now I started the book. I am on chapter 2, and I'm finding it amusing how much recap Robing Hobb is doing from not only the last 2 books in the Tawny Man Trilogy, but the Farseer trilogy. We haven't touched much on what happened in Life Ship Traders, but it's just very fascinating to me how much time we are spending recapping what has already happened. So I'd say that so far, it seems like if you space these books or these sub-trilogies out when you're reading it, you won't feel completely lost because there's definitely lots of opportunity to catch up. I have made it 50% of the way into Fool's Fate, so I thought I would do a little bit of an update, a reading update, reacting to the progress so far. So in this one, we actually have the quest that we were promised in the last book. The betrothed of the prince has basically said, if you want to prove yourself worthy of my love, you will go on this quest and do this task for me. And that's what this is. So largely the quest story. Again, Robing Hobb really loves that trope, and that's okay because I do too. I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying being with Fitz, but I do have some critiques. Robin Hobb really knows how to write an excruciating girl character, like a young female kid, essentially. Because what is really frustrating me about this is that this snot-nosed preteen is challenging the prince to do this big grand thing. And I don't like how he just kind of drops everything and does it. And I get this is an arranged betrothal, and these two areas want like a peace treaty and like a trade agreement. So there are political benefits to this. But I'm kind of like, you're kind of being a pushover here, doing everything that she says. And she just really, really bugs me. This whole quest just bugs me because that's the source of it. But you as the reader know, and I think our characters also know, but they don't talk about it nearly enough, that there is like a hidden motivation from this chick, this young kid, like she's like 11, 12 years old. So that's what I mean, preteen. So you definitely know that something's up with her. And part of my frustration is that Fitz and the others are aware that something else is going on, but they don't seem to be putting nearly enough energy into figuring out why that is. And they're just okay with their prince being betrothed to this girl. That seems really weird to me. And even though I still adore Fitz as our main character, he is still frustrating me in this third book. He isn't wallowing in self-pity as much as he was in the other books, but now he seems almost lazy and not even reactive, like letting life happen to him, but then he still does nothing. So here's a couple examples, spoiler free. There's this, it's not even a subplot, but there's this element where Fitz has taken a young boy into his care, like a foster son. And the foster son is in Buckkeep doing an apprenticeship. And he's kind of fallen into the seduction of this young girl who's nothing but trouble. And like Fitz realizes this, and in his internal monologue, he's like, I can see bad things happening, bad things that will derail this young man from his goals and like having a good life and just being consumed by this young love, right? And so Fitz knows this, he recognizes it, but he does nothing. He is the kid's father figure, and yet he doesn't give him any guidance, any discipline. There's no consequences when he's acting like a little brat, and it's just lazy fatherhood or guardianship. And it has me really frustrated with Fitz because he'll be complaining like, oh, I'm really concerned about him, I don't know what to do about him, and so he does nothing. Even when they talk together, he's like, well, I don't want to scare him off, and when I was that age I wouldn't have listened to me, so I'm just gonna do nothing. And I'm like, that's so annoying, because now you're just trying to be a friend. You're not trying to be a guardian, a mentor, a father. You're nothing. So that's one thing that's really bugging me about Fitz. And then another situation, the Fool is one of his best friends. I mean, in the title here. So Fool is a major character in this. And the Fool tells Fitz something, and it's something that Fitz does not want to hear. So he just decides not to think about it. So it bugs me that he kind of undermines his friend and doubts his friend. He doesn't believe what he's saying is true, and doesn't even want to give it any thought to really ponder it and give it a chance. He just totally dismisses his friend because he doesn't want to hear it. It doesn't align with his other goals. And just because you hear something that contradicts your efforts doesn't mean you just dismiss it. You really have to think about it and determine what you really believe. And I just don't like how he was so quick to dismiss one of the truest friends he has and kind of almost treat him like he's crazy, like by not believing him. And so that really frustrates me. So those are two examples of what I mean by like Fitz is really, really frustrating me. Finally, the royals in this series really like to manipulate and use people. And that can be a little frustrating. Everything is for the good of the throne, the crown, their line. And it just is so frustrating how they manipulate and use people and kind of take any feelings someone might have and like twist them for their own benefit. And it's like, well, you need to do this because of loyalty to the crown. And that's like a common thing, especially with like medieval type fantasy and storylines when there's a monarchy. And maybe it's just the democracy like pushing back in me, but it can be a struggle when they're like, no, you have to sacrifice all your beliefs. You have to sacrifice your family. You have to sacrifice yourself, your body, your morals, your goals, like everything, because I say so. And it's just so controlling. And it gives me the sense of just being powerless. And again, Fitz just rolls with it and allows himself to be used. And there's some situations where I'm like, how can you have any fondness towards these people when you know they're using you? And it's a fascinating feeling or reaction that I'm having because I actually really, really like the royals in this book. I like the people that are leading and in charge. They tend to have good morality, and so it's so interesting that I can adore them as leaders and yet be so disgusted by them. So that's a contradiction that I'm kind of enjoying exploring, but there are some moments where I get really worked up and really mad at them for being so manipulative. So overall, like reading this, I am enjoying it. I'm having a great time, but I'm also having a frustrating time where I'm feeling like anxiety because I just want Fitz to break through, and he's just getting pushed over a lot. I have about 50% left of the book, but something I'm finding is that as soon as I sit down to read this, I really don't want to stop. And that's been true with all the books in the Tawny Man Trilogy so far, is that if I'm feeling frustrated, I may not want to pick it up right away because, you know, like I want to know what's going to happen, but I know I'm not going to agree with a lot of things that happen. And I know that our characters are going to go through some stuff. And so I'm kind of dreading picking it up. But once I do, I am flying through the pages because I am so engaged in what I'm reading and I'm so incredibly immersed in this story. Again, very slow paced, but I just love how I just am consumed by this world. So I am sure that I can finish the last 50% relatively quickly, which is good because I am really cutting to this to the wire from reading this to like filming my final reaction to posting this reading vlog. I have to read like every day. So I'm gonna get to that, and I'm kind of scared what's gonna happen next, but let's see what my boy Fitz can put together here. I forgot to mention, 2 more secrets were revealed, ones that I was really excited for, and again, they happened off page. The reader was not part of the reveal. So I'm pretty frustrated I don't get that payoff. I don't want to tell you what page number I'm on because I don't want to be that specific, but in chapter 22, we have not a plot twist, but a surprise appearance that has me completely shook. I'm so happy. I swear, if this is a hallucination, Miss Robing Hobb, I'm gonna lose my mind because I really hope this is what I think it is because I'm so excited. I have a Spanish class coming up that I really need to be studying for and preparing for, but I cannot put this down. Like, I swear, once I passed the 50% mark, this got so plot heavy, action packed, emotional reveals. I am really, really loving this. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna end up finishing this tonight because I just don't want to stop. I can't see how I could put this down without finishing it. But primero, I need to go to Spanish class. Okay, so we're doing this again. I should have put the book down. I'm not ready for this. I was not exaggerating when I said that this book was unputdownable because yesterday I read the 400 pages I needed to finish the book. That means I finished that all in that one sitting where I did my last check-in where I was crying and upset. But like I said, so much was happening. I had to keep reading to see what would happen next and how it would wrap up. And boy, did it wrap up well. I mentioned I was hopeful that I would feel like satisfied and there'd be closure at the end of this trilogy, knowing that it's part of a larger series, The Realm of the Elderlings. And I'm very happy to report that I do feel that closure. Maybe not the closure I would have wanted, maybe not happily ever after for everybody. Maybe some characters I wanted to sit on a pickle and people are more forgiving, I guess, but it all wrapped up. And even at the end, we get like a summary of like an epilogue of like where everybody was after the events concluded. So very, very good closure for this. And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about my frustration of how there were all these secrets and reveals of the secrets were happening off page. I have a theory of why Robin Hobb made that writing decision. I think she was trying to show how much was out of our characters' control, how much they just couldn't control the direction of their fate and where things were going. And I think that writing decision was intentional to give us that feeling and that hopelessness and that frustration of the character and how these forces are like driving his life forward. So that is my theory. Doesn't mean I have to like it, but it did make me feel a certain way. So I think that was successful in that regard. There was also some discussion that really makes me understand the wallowing in self-pity and that like victim mentality that I felt Fitz was going through and that I was finding very frustrating to read about. I mean, I always understood it because Fitz has been through some things, right? And who am I to judge how he handles it, right? But there was an explanation more of like why that was, other than just like obviously like emotional damage. And that was really interesting. It added a lot of perspective to me, and I think at the end I'm a lot more tolerant of that behavior and that sense of detachment he had from people, responsibilities, relationships, and it sheds a lot of light on it. And you know, this series overall, it really has great character work, but particularly in their relationships with each other and how complicated they can be, and loyalty versus duty versus like freedom of choice. And that's what I really, really like about this trilogy. For book number 3 in the Tawny Man Trilogy, I think I'm landing on a rating of 4 stars because I love the second half, and even though I understand the wallowing in self-pity and the detachment, doesn't mean I have to enjoy reading about it. So that's why it kind of lost a star. But overall for the trilogy, I would say that I loved this trilogy. I think it would average out, because what did I say? 5 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars. So averages out to a 4, I think. And I think that's pretty appropriate. I think that would be my rating for this. But I did absolutely love it. And you definitely have to read the other 2 trilogies before you read this to get the full impact. You're not going to know what's going on. You're not going to care about these characters unless you have that foundation. So you have to read 6 books before you can read these 3. But boy, is it worth it, because my mind is in a haze because I feel like I'm still in the 6 duchies. I feel like Fitz is a real person that I know inside and outside, and Night Eyes, I want to give him a hug. So thank you so much for hanging out with me in this reading vlog where I am reacting to the Tawny Man Trilogy. It was a positive reaction, even if I'm crying through most of it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me in this video. I will see you in the next one.